What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Danny on NFL. And today we are going to be talking about some of the roster cuts that the Colts have made. So in the previous week, the Colts have let go of a couple of different players, which are actually very good players, but they would have basically been like the practice squad players. Also, too, they have had 3 players opt out of the year due to COVID-19. First player that I want to talk about is Marvell Tell. He is a player that went ahead and opted out. There was a press conference with Frank Reich a couple of days ago. He essentially just said that it was a private choice. He went to Ballard and Reich and just said basically that he didn't feel comfortable playing. Reich and Ballard have made it very clear that they would respect any player's choice to opt out, which I think is very, very good. And I don't really think anybody would fault somebody for playing ball if they, for some reason, had a family member that had a high-risk medical issue and they chose to opt out. I don't think that anybody would fault them for doing that. I know that I won't. Marvell Tell was a player which kind of filled in whenever we needed him to, especially when Pierre Desir was out, and he played fairly well. He started in the Kansas City game, because a lot of people forget that the Colts actually beat Kansas City on Sunday Night Football in Kansas City and held them to 13 points. Marvell Tell was part of that win, even though the Chiefs' offense was basically at full strength. So the Colts, if they really want to, they really do have a very deep secondary that can make plays. They just have to do it together. Now, the next player that I want to talk about is Sky Moore. He opted out due to the COVID-19 issues. The linebacker position for the Colts is going to be very deep this year, and it's going to be hard to get into a starting spot. Of course, you have Bobby Okereke, who had a very, very good season last year, especially when Darius Leonard was out. And then we have Anthony Walker, and then of course we have Darius. Who is going to be the Will and who was going to be the Mike? That's still to be determined. I think that Chris Ballard and Frank Reich are going to be the ones to kind of just, allow the training camp to play out. And one of the things when I went back and watched with the first pick of this year, Ballard made it very clear that what he wanted was he wanted speed and athleticism on the defense. And this was even a focal point for 2019. So they went out and got Okereke. They went out and got Walker. They went out and got Ari Willis, who was actually a very, very good safety. He reminds me a lot of Earl Thomas. He's just not that tall. He's very physical. He's very fast, and he can cover the field, right? And he's an excellent tackler as well. Like I said, the linebackers are going to be very hard to get a starting rolling, especially since everyone basically played really well last year, and our defense is basically the same from last year. I mean, of course, we added Buckner, Blackman, but he's still healing from a injury that he did have in college. So losing Moore is not really like a big deal, but it does affect the depth of the position as well. So that is something to actually to take a look at as we see more of the roster cuts coming. Now, one of the other things that I want to talk about too is Phlip Rivers and his fire to play football. After watching all of the different press conferences with some of the players, especially Anthony Castonzo, everybody, Ballard, Wright, Hilton, Pittman, Taylor, all of them, they all said the same thing, that Rivers just has a desire to play ball, that he's like a little kid out there in 6th grade playing catch with some of the guys out there. I'm personally very excited to have Rivers. So I've been a Rivers fan for a very long time, and I've been more of a fantasy football fan of his. I usually take him 10th round. He's a slam dunk for 12 to 13 points a game. That's kind of what you want out of a quarterback. You don't want the Peyton Mannings or the Drew Breeses to a point where they will play very, very well, and then they'll have a bad game, and then you're just super disappointed about it. Really, what you want from quarterback play is consistent, and that's something that Rivers does very well. He's a very consistent player. What I mean by that is that he will throw 250 yards, a couple of touchdowns, maybe throw a pick here and there. You are guaranteed that 250 and 2 every single week, which is what you want. Like, you want to be able to have that established as a team. But what you don't want is the 500-yard players a game, because then you're lacking the run game. And I think this is kind of where the strength of the Colts come from. They have a very good running game, but that also sets up the pass. Historically, they've been a pass-first team, which sets up the draws and the runs. But now they have the ability to use the play action as a big advantage. Now, last year, Rivers, while he was doing a play action, was one of the best, and that's because he had Eckler. Right? Eckler was one of the best running backs last. And there's been a lot of talk about getting Jonathan Taylor involved in the passing game too, which I'm super stoked about. I mean, imagine if you had Hilton and then you got Pittman here. Then in the slot, you've got Pascal or Paris, who are just very speedy guys. And then you have Doyle, and then you have Taylor or Mack in the backfield. Or let's say, too, that you take out the slot receiver and you've got Mack and Taylor on the field. Or even if it's like a third down, you also have Hines, Taylor in the same backfield, and you're running 2 swing passes to the running back on third down and 4. And then you still have Hilton on the field to clear out the path. That's a pretty hard offense to stop, especially with how athletic that Doyle is too. Doyle's no Darren Waller from the Raiders, right? But he is a player which can be a mismatch against more of like the Mike linebackers who tend to struggle in pass coverage. So I'm really excited to see Rivers behind center this year. Now the next thing that I do want to talk about is Hilton. He was put on the PUP list for a hamstring injury. This is just something that comes with speedy players. This is just what happens as they age. They tend to have issues with their hamstring. I mean, yes, it is concerning to a point, because hamstring injuries are very, very hard to heal, and that's because you are using it constantly. Every time you walk, every time you go upstairs, every step you take, you are using your hamstring, and that's a very hard muscle to heal, again, because you're using it constantly. So it is something to be concerned about. It is very early in this, like, pre-season, I don't know what you want to call it, conglomerate. So I'm not super worried about it. The Colts do have very football trainers as well too, and nutritionists as well. So I'm not super worried about it. It just means that Pittman is probably going to take some first team rep, which is not a bad thing. Any kind of reps that anybody can really get when they are a rookie is something that is very valuable. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and end this here. I just wanted to do just kind of a quick update on where the Colts roster is at and kind of the different players and what I've been noticing. So with that being said, make sure you smash the like button. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Danny on NFL. With that being said, peace out.